We begin today the Gemara on Daf Samach Chesam Amud Aleph, third line down from the top of the Yamud. Right before this, the Gemara Mishnah was discussing when a person sells a olive press, what components are included in this olive press. The next Mishnah and the Gemara discussed the person that's selling a bathhouse, what parts of the bathhouse are included. And the last thing we learned here in the Gemara is that if the seller, when he sold the bathhouse, says Beis HaMerchatz v'chol tashmishov, and all other things that come that are used with it, then everything is sold, including the things that it said that are not sold. For example, it said Beis HaEtzim, the place where they store the wood for the bathhouse, that's not usually sold with the bathhouse. But if you said v'chol tashmishov, that's included as well. Okay, so in connection to this, the Gemara brings an incident that happened. A person says to his friend, Beis Abad, v'chol tashmishov ani moichelach. The olive press, with all of tashmishov, with everything that's used with it, I sell for you. So he used this expression, tashmishov. Then, in this olive press, Havia Hanu Chemvese Avroi, there was a store that was right outside of this olive press. This is a store. The Rashbam says a store that they sell bread or wine, but it was also used for something that was connected to the olive press, because the Avishotchoba Shumshimi, they would spread out sesames, I guess to dry or to prepare them to be used, to be pressed in this olive press. So in that sense, it was a store that was an area connected to the olive press. Asla kamed Rav Yosef, so they came to ask Rav Yosef whether this is included in the sale or not. He said, I'm selling you b'chol tashmishov, the olive press and everything that's used with it. So is this store also included? Amalei, so Rav Yosef answered, Tanina, we learned in the Braise, Im Ama Beis HaMerchatz v'chol tashmishov, that if he says, I'm selling you the bathhouse and everything that's used with it, ani moichelach, hare kula mechuren. So then everything is taka included, even the storage place for the wood. So in our case as well, because this store was also used to spread out the sesames that will be pressed in this olive press, so it's also included. It's connected. There's a use there with the olive press. So the Gemara asks in this, Amalei Abaye asks Rav Yosef, but what Tani Rav Chia taught, that in such a kind of case where you have a store that is a store, they sell things there, but it's also used to spread out sesames that's used in the olive press, that it's not going to be sold along with the press, even if you say v'chol tashmishov. So Rav Ashi says the halacha will be as follows. Chazina, we have to see what was written in the document of the sale. If the seller said to him, Beis Abad, I'm selling you the press, v'chol tashmishov, and everything that's used with it. And then he also added ve'ila matzranoha, and these are the boundaries. And when you look at the boundaries of what's written there in this document, you see that this store is within the boundaries. Then koni, then you will acquire the store. But ve'iloi, if you didn't add those words ve'ila matzranoha, these are the boundaries, like koni, then you will not acquire this store. So the Rashbam explains, we had before in the Gemara when it comes to boundaries, that lav dafka, the boundaries that are written in a document, doesn't mean that everything in those boundaries are included. Sometimes you're just writing boundaries, but not everything is included. But in this case, when this store is something that's used also for the olive press, when you write everything included in these boundaries, it will be included. A person that sold a city. So what's included in a city? Machar, so what's included, obviously, the streets and the courtyards are included, but even more, machar batim, the houses, bairis, the pits, shichin, ditches, mairis, caves, merchetzois, bathhouses, shevachos, dovkats, beis abadin, and the olive presses, ubeis hashlochin, which is something the Gemara is going to discuss, what exactly a beis hashlochin is. All of this is included in the sale of the city. Avol loy es a metaltalin, but not other movable things that are in the city, including things that are needed for the use to live in the city, like the Rashbam says, an oven or things like that, they're not included in the sale of the city. But if the seller says, I'm selling you the city and everything included, then all movable things are included. And even if there's animals and slaves in the city, it's all included in the sale. So as the Gemara will explain, that there's an extra chiddush when you talk about the behemoths and the avadim, that they're also included in the sale of the city. Rav Shimon Gamliel says regarding the sale of a city, a person that's selling a city, machar es a santar. The santar is also included. Now this santar will be explained in the Gemara what it is. So Rav Acha, the son of Rav Aviv, says to Rav Ashi, based on what it said in our Mishnah, Shamit mino, we can learn from our Mishnah that Avda, a slave, can metal domi, has the halacha that when people speak about a slave, he's treated like a movable item. How do we see this from our Mishnah? Because the if you would say that an eved in the language of people is considered to be like karka, so then it's dabin agav masa. When you sell a city, along with the city, the slaves in the city should be included in the sale. Because when you sell a city, the karkais, the properties, are included in the sale. And what did the Mishnah say? That the avodim are not included in the sale. But if eved is like karka, why isn't he included in the sale? So the Rashbam here clarifies that the discussion about an eved, whether he's like a karka or not, it's not regarding the halachim and atayre. Regarding the halachim and atayre, the Rashbam brings the pasuk vesnachalta meisum lufnechem achrechem that an eved has the halacha like karka. The question is in lashon b'nei yodam, when people speak in their language and use in a sale, and eved is an eved in the people's language considered to be like karka or like metaltalin. And in our Mishnah we see that the eved is not included in the sale, so he's metaltalin. Says the Gemara of Elamai, what are you going to say based on our Mishnah? Avde kimetaltali domi. That an eved is like all movable items, and therefore he's not included in the sale. So if so, let's see what it says in the Sefer of the Mishnah. Ihachi the Bachad's my. What does it mean when it says in the Sefer of the Mishnah that when he says that I'm selling you v'chol mashu b'toicha, including everything, the Mishnah says, then afila, even the avadim and the behemoths will also be included. So the question is, my afila. Why is it used the term afilu here? If it's just like all other metaltalin, why is there a bigger chiddush that the Mishnah uses the expression afilu regarding the avodim? So Ela Mayis Loch L'Meimar, what are you going to answer? That there is a bigger chiddush regarding the avodim and the behemoths. The reason is shani be metaltalin the nayid, me metaltalin the loy nayid. There's a big difference between metaltalin that stay put and don't move themselves to eved, which is also in the language of people metaltalin, but he moves around himself. So there you would think that it's not included in the sale of the city. The metaltalin that are present and are there in the city are included, but not an eved that walks around himself. So therefore, it comes to say that he is included. If so, I can tell you regarding the beginning of the Mishnah, when it says that the avodim are not included in the sale, when you didn't say v'chol mashu b'toicha, afilatei ma'avde k'mekarke dami. Even you can say that even in the language of people, a eved has the halacha like karka. People speak of a eved like karka. But still, there's a difference. Shani, be'mekarka denayid, le'mekarka deloynayid. There's a difference. A karka that's there, that's part of the city, that's included. But the eved, which is like karka but moves around, is not included in the sale of the city. Person that sells a city, the santar is included in the sale. Zok the Gemara, my santar. What is this santar? Hocha targimu. So here in Bavel they translated that santar is bar machvanisa. The individual that is in charge in the city of seeing the properties that everyone has, exactly the borders, and to know exactly where one property begins and another property ends. That's the person in charge of this. So what Rav Shimon is saying is, Rav Shimon Gamliel is saying is that this individual is included in the sale of the city because he knows everything and he's that person that is in charge of everything. So when you buy a city, you have to also have the acquisition of this person to have all that service, to know everything. Shimon ben Avtula says, Bagi, that the santer refers to fields that are outside the city, surrounding the city. So the Gemara explains, the one that says that it's this individual in charge, Kol Shekem Bagi, definitely the fields surrounding are included. This person that's in charge, he walks around, he's not like part of the city. So for sure, according to that opinion, that the fields surrounding the city will be included. But Mandoma Bagi, the opinion that says, Rav Shimon ben Avtulmus, that said that it refers to the fields, Avo Bar Machvanisa, but this individual in charge, Leim is Daven, he's not sold together with the city. Okay, so the Gemara is going to ask here from what it said in the Mishnah. So Tanan, the Mishnah said in the beginning that what's included in the sale of a city, Beis Abadim, the olive presses, and then it said Beis Hashlochin, and also a Beis Hashlochin. Okay, so first the Gemara explains what is this Beis Hashlochin, Sovrua. So the ones that are asking now from the Mishnah thought to say, My Shlochin, what is this place called Shlochin? Bagi, it's fields. The Chsiv, as you see in the pasuk, V'shalech mayim al pnei chutzos, it's a place that water is sent out or flows out, and the places outside. This is what usually an irrigated field is called a Beis Hashlochin because it has the water that flows through. So what the Mishnah is saying in the first part of the Mishnah is that when you sell a city, the fields, the Beis Hashlochin, are included in the sale. Okay, so now the Gemara says, if so, the opinion that says that Rab Shimon Gamliel is adding that this santer means this individual in charge is included in the sale, so then a Mishnah makes sense, because the Tanakama says that the fields surrounding the city are included. Mizdavni. So Bar Machvanisa le Mizdavni, but the Tanakama holds that this individual in charge is not included. Then Rab Shimon Gamliel argues and he adds, Afila Bar Machvanisa, this individual in charge is included. Nami Mizdavni. But according to the second opinion that says that what is the santer? Santer are the fields surrounding the city. So then he's not adding anything to the Tanakama. Tanakama nami ochikama. The Tanakama said the same thing. The Tanakama said the fields are included in the sale. So the Gemara answers, Mi savris, my shlochen bagi. Do you think that the shlochen of this Mishnah means the fields? Loi, that's not what shlochen means. My shlochen ginunyasa. It refers to gardens. And these gardens are not the fields that are outside the city, but they're gardens that are inside the city where people walk around in nice gardens. Shenemar, as it says in another pasuk, Shlachayech pardes rimoinim, send out into a orchard of where it grows pomegranates. So you see that over here, it's not referring to these fields outside the city, but it's referring to nice gardens or orchards that are inside the city. Avol bagi loim is davni, but according to the Tanakama, only those gardens inside the city are included in the sale, but the fields surrounding the city are not included. And then Rab Shimon Gamliel adds afila bagi namim is davni, that the fields surrounding the city are also included. That's one version of the question that was asked from the Mishnah on this on the meaning of the word santer. Ikadamri, there's another version, Savarua, that when they looked at the Mishnah, they thought to explain that when the Tanakama said that the base of Shlochin is included, my Shlochin, what's the meaning of Shlochin? Gindunyasa. The Shlochin, they originally thought that it's the gardens inside the city. So now the Gemara asks, the question is going to be the opposite. It's understood according to the opinion that says that the santer that Rab Shimon Gamliel is coming to add means the fields. So it makes sense. The Tanakama says that it's the gardens inside the city Mizdabin are sold together with the city. But Bagi lo Mizdabni. But the fields surrounding are not included. And then Vasa Rab Shimon Gamliel Meimar, Rab Shimon Gamliel adds and says, Afile Bagi Mizdabni. That not only the gardens inside the city, but the fields are also included. But according to the other opinion that Rav Shimon Gamliel was coming to say that the person in charge is included in the sale of the city, so then why is he jumping to that? The Tanakama says that the gardens are included, and Rav Shimon Gamliel is coming to add that the person in charge is included. Rav Shimon Gamliel should have said a step before that the fields are included. That's already a chiddush. The Tanakama didn't say that the fields surrounding the city are included. He should have said that. That's simpler. That's included, and then there's you can say a bigger chiddush when you get to bar machvani. So why isn't he saying that it's the fields surrounding that are included in the sale? So according to this version, the answer that was given is mi savres. Do you think my shlachin ginun yasa, that when the Tanakama says that the shlachin are included, it's the gardens inside the city? Loi, that's not the pshat. My shlochin, what is shlochin? Bagi, it's the fields surrounding the city. The chsiv shalech mayim al pnei chutza is the place where they have the irrigated fields outside. Avo bar machvanisa loy mizdavin. So the Tanakama is saying that the fields are sold with the city, but the person in charge is not sold with the city. Also, Rab Shimon Gamliel lemeima. Rab Shimon Gamliel adds that fila bar machvanisa nami mizdavin, that this person in charge is included in the sale as well. Okay, so we have the two pshatim here in the Mishnah, whether the santer of Shimon Gamliel came to add is this person in charge, or it refers to the fields outside the city. So the Gemara says, Tashema, I'll bring you a raya from what it says in the Braisa. Rabbi Yehuda said, Santor eine mocher. The santor is not included in the sale of the city. But ankolmos mocher, the ankolmos is included in the sale of the city. So now, this ankolmos, as the Rashbam says, is a scribe that works for the government, and he writes down exactly the number of houses and properties in order to be able to collect the property tax. So that ankolmos that's needed to be able to manage and collect the taxes of the city is included in the sale. So now says the Gemara, what does it sound like from what Rabbi Yehuda is saying? My love, don't you think, with the ankolmos gavra, since the ankolmos that Rabbi Yehuda is talking about, and he says that he is included in the sale, so that's a person. So santer nami gavra. When he says that the santer is not included, the santer is also a person. And as I mentioned, the santer is that person that's in charge of seeing exactly the boundaries of the properties. What? Yeah, that's the bar machminisa, exactly. So the Gemara says, no, not necessarily is there a raya from this midi area. Do you have to compare the two? The santer is, you can say, is the fields outside the city. And then kolmis is that government official that counts and sees the properties for the taxes. Lav dafka, they're connected. But the Gemara asks, based on what it says in the Sefer of the Mishnah, could you say this? Could you say that Rabbi Yehuda is saying that the santer, which means the fields, are not sold together with the city? How could you say this? But we see from what it says in the Sefer of the Mishnah that it says as follows: there are certain things that are not included in the sale of the city. What are they? Avaloi shaire, not the remnants of the city, which the Gemara will explain soon what the shaire is. And then v'loi bnei sel, and not literally translated the daughters of the city, which means like the suburbs or the villages that are surrounding this city. V'loi chorshin amuktzin lo, and not the forests that are open to that are designated for this city. And v'loi bivarin shalchai v'shaleifes v'shaldagim, and not enclosures where you have animals or birds or ponds that are enclosed, that the fish are there that are in by the city. They're not included. Okay, so now the shaire, that's the thing that the Gemara is going to focus on. And we said in the pshat of this braisa, my shaire, what does it mean that the remnants of the city are not included in the sale? And the answer was given, bizli. My bizli, what is this bizli? Amarav abe piski bagi. This is strips of fields that are cut off from the city. They're not directly by the city, and the reason is because there's maybe a rock or something else that's between the city and this field. Those strips of fields are not going to be included in the city, in the sale of the city. That's the pshat in the braisa. So now the Gemara says, what does that mean? What's the sefer of this braisa saying? Piski bagi hudolay misdaven. These strips of fields that are not connected to the city are not sold together with the city. Ha bagi atzman, but those fields that are directly connected to the city, surrounding the city, misdavni, they are sold together with the city. So then how can you say that Rabbi Yehuda in the Reisha is saying that santar is not sold, that he means to say the santar is fields, that the fields are not sold together with the city, if you can see from the sefer of this braisa that fields surrounding the city are included in the sale? So the Gemara says, if you want to accept this pshat, then eipach. You're gonna have to switch what Rabbi Yehuda said in the Reisha. And you'll have to say, Rabbi Yehuda said, santar mocher, the santar which are the fields surrounding the city are sold together with the city. And kolmus, that government official that's in charge of the taxes, ein mocher, he's not sold together with the city. Okay, but the Gemara still asks on this, so can you now say that Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Shimon Gamliel svirele? We just switched around the words of Rabbi Yehuda, so it comes out Rabbi Yehuda is saying the same as Rabbi Shimon Gamliel in our Mishnah, that the santar, which are the fields, are sold together with the city. Could you say that Rabbi Yehuda holds the same as Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? And here the Gemara is going to bring from what Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said in another braisa, that you see that Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel disagree. We can see that Rabbi Yehuda has to hold like the Rabbanon regarding the other details that he mentions in the Sefer. Why? The Tani Sefer, as we quoted before, what did it say in the Sefer of this braisa? V'loi shaire, the remnants of the city, meaning those strips of fields, are not included, and also v'loi b'nei sel, and not villages that are surrounding the city are not included either. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel disagrees with this. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, when you sell a city, so the villages or the suburbs, they're included in the sale. The Tanya, as we learned in the Braisa, Hamoicher eseir, lemochar es bnei sel. Tanakama says that if you sell a city, the villages are not included. But Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Hamoicher eseir, machar bnei sel. When you sell a city, the villages surrounding are included in the sale of the city. So how can you say that Rabbi Yehuda of this Braisa regarding the santar holds like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel if we see that when it comes to the villages, he disagrees with Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? So the Gemara answers, that's not a question. Rabbi Yehuda savalei kavasei b'choda. We could say Rabbi Yehuda holds like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel regarding one point, regarding the santar, which are the fields in this interpretation. And regarding another point, regarding the villages surrounding the city, regarding that, he argues with Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. So he doesn't have to hold like him in all details. He holds like him in one detail and not like him in another detail. Now the Gemara goes back to other details that were mentioned here in this Braisa. When you sell a city, it said, "V'loi bivarin shalchai v'shaleifes v'shaldagim." The enclosures of animals or birds or fish are not included in the sale. But Amini, the Gemara asks a contradiction. It says, "Hayolo banois einim karesima." If there are other villages, they're not included in the sale. If this city has another portion of the city that's in the ocean, meaning that the city has a name and then there's an island that's right off of the of this city, and it also is part of the city. It's the same name of this city itself, so that's also included in the sale. And the chelik echad b'yabasha, or if there's another portion of a piece of land that is also part of the city, but it's a little further away from the city, but it still is, it's part of the city, has the same name, it's also included in the sale. Bivarim, Shalchayis, Chayev, Vishal Oifis, Vishal Dogim, and the same also with the enclosure of a place where there's animals or birds or fish. Hareelim Karamima, they're all included in the sale of the city. So this is a contradiction to what this Braisa here said, that the enclosures of the animals, fish, or birds are not included in the sale. So the Gemara answers, it depends how these enclosures are made. Like Kashi, it's not a contradiction. Ha dinegiach kai legav. In the case where we say that these enclosures are sold with the city, it's because the door, the entrance is open towards the city, so it belongs to the city, so it's included in the sale. And the Braisa that it says that it's not included in the sale of the city is because these enclosures their doors opened out, away from the city, therefore it's not included. Frek the Gemara, but v'hakatani, we learned in this Braisa itself that it says v'loyes acharshin amuktzin la, that if there's a forest outside the city, which is muktzin la means it's designated, it's opened to the city, it's still not included in the sale. So if you're saying regarding the enclosure of the animals that it will depend if this place is open to the city or it's open in the other direction, so why over here when you have the forest that's open to the city, is it not included in the sale of the city? So the Gemara says we have to read the Braisa differently. Eima hamuktzin hey mena, that it's talking about the forests that are not open to the city. Opposite, they're opened away from the city to another direction. That's when they're not going to be included in the sale of the city.